Hey everybody, welcome back to Talking Cardboard. My name is Cory, and in today's video I am reviewing the brand new released champion for the game Godtear called Durthax, Branch Lord of the Weald. How does this champion stack up against the other champions in other expansion content that's been previously released for Godtear? Is it worth it? Should you try it before you buy it, or just go out and buy it? Well, let's find out right now. First and foremost, I did want to mention that Steamforged Games was nice enough to send us a review copy of this brand new champion Durthax to bring to the table here today. But with that, just so you're aware, these opinions of Durthax and of the game is my opinions alone. And spoilers, well before Steamforged Games ever started sending us review copies of new characters, I did purchase Godtear on my own way back in the day. This is one of my favorite tactical skirmish games of all time. So take that for what you will, but I did want to mention that. So if it's been a while since you've seen Godtear played or seen a review video on what Godtear is all about, I'm going to go over a quick high-level overview of how to play Godtear. This isn't a specific rules teach, but I wanted to give you an idea of how it's played before talking about this new champion here. And the way it works is you are vying for control and getting different victory points throughout the round to shift this token on either side of the ladder here. And if the token ends up on your side of the ladder by the end of the round, you get to claim that token for your victory points, and again, the first player to 5 victory points wins the game. So there are some strategies where you're trying to position yourself and set up your team of characters to be in the best position for future rounds. You don't necessarily have to win each and every round, but the first player to get up to 5 victory points will win the game. So for example, if you throw the first round and you lose the token, you can win rounds 2 and 3 to win the game. You don't have to win each and every round. So that is one of the things that I think is really cool about Godtear is you don't have to press to win each and every minute of the game. You can really strategically position yourself to try to get in better positioning throughout the game, and that just makes for a ton of additional strategy and tactical decisions throughout the game. The attacking in this game is done with dice. You have different cards in front of you that'll dictate your actions and the flow of play. Let's just get into the flow of play a little bit here. As you can see here on the main board, I have the new Godtear here, the new Godtear champion Durthax and his Treekin going against one other character, Titus, and his Glory Seekers, and they're vying for control over the center Godtears here. As you can see here, Durthax and Titus both have their flags planted. Those are worth points at the end of the round if you can maintain that. But these Godtear champions can stomp around and squash out the opposing flag and get rid of it before the round ends, and that's one of the ways to tactically try to win the round over your opponent. The only players that can actually walk on these center Godtears here are the champions themselves. These little minions here cannot walk on top of the Godtears. And the only players or the only characters to be able to plant the flag are your Godtear champion as well. So you've got these minions or these followers that are trying to skirmish around the board and be support for your main character and try to help out your main hero. And your hero is typically very tough, very durable and strong, can strike very death-provoking blows to your opponent's champions and also plant some flags as well. So that is kind of the high-level overview of what's going on. You have the center card here that tells you your ultimate ability that is a one-time use per game, which is very strong, and I'll get into that in a second, but just so you're aware, each and every different champion in this game has a different ultimate ability. So while you're trying to get points within each of these rounds to win the rounds are actually split into 2 different phases, which is awesome as well. The first phase is the plot phase, and then you go into combat. During each of the phases, you are allowed up to 2 actions. Actions can be shown in text on the cards here or with these symbols like movement and other things on the cards as well. But during the plot phase, you get 2 actions with each of the cards. You get to do both of your cards simultaneously, and then it passes to the next player and they get to do their plot phase as well. And typically within the plot phase, that is when you're trying to position yourself and strategically place your minions and your champion and your flag. And this is the only time of the round that you're actually allowed to place your flag, and that takes an entire action as well, so you have to strategically plan around that. And then after each player does both of their actions in their plot phase on both of their cards, you flip those over, and then you are onto the combat phase where you can activate only one card at a time, going back and forth until all the cards have been resolved during the combat phase. And that's more so when you're trying to attack and trying to push back and trying to kill the other heroes, champions, minions, stuff like that. So it's split up in a very cool way where you've got your plot phase, do everything all at once, and then into your combat phase where you alternate between the followers and the champion, so you can't just use your entire force all onto your opponent before they have a chance to respond. So that is really cool as well. Also, as you can see here, the colors of these followers and champions are different colors, and those mean different things as well. There are blue, yellow, green, and red champions in the game of Godtear, and those different colors essentially mean different things for different play styles. So for example, the blue factions are good at when you plant a flag, you get an additional point at the end of the round if your flag has survived. So you get 5 points for your flag instead of 4. Whereas the yellow faction here, they get additional points for destroying minions. So they get 2 points per minion destroyed, whereas any other faction only gets 1 point per minion destroyed. Red gets an additional point for destroying other heroes or other champions, and green is good when you plant the flag. You get an additional point when you plant the flag, and you don't necessarily have to stick around to protect the flag until the end of that round. So each of the different colors have different play styles, and another thing that makes this game really fun and really unique is that you can play 2v2 or 3v3, you can play however many players against however many other players, and you can each bring one champion to the table. And each champion, like I said, you can choose different colors, so they play off of one another or have different play styles and that sort of thing, and that makes it a lot of fun. One other thing to mention is that if you are looking to get into Godtear as a more professional type of play or more tournament-based play, it is typically 1 versus 1, and each player brings 3 champions with their followers to the table. So 3 different champions with their followers. You play 3 versus 3 essentially, but it's 1 player versus 1 other player. And like I said, with the 4 different colors of the different heroes and followers, you can really mix and match for a completely unique play style to how you want to play the game. And you don't have to mix and match the colors either. You could just bring all 3 red heroes to the table if you want to be very aggressive and go after your opposing player's heroes, or you can really tailor it to be how you want to. You don't have to bring different colors to the table. So that is really fun as well. All right, and now the moment you've all been waiting for, let's actually jump into the new hero here. Let's jump into Durthax and his Treekin, but let's start it all off with the lore behind Durthax. Something extraordinary happened when a falling Godtear pierced the bark of an ancient tree. Its branches shuddered with life, and its trunk heaved roots up from the clutches of the earth. Durthax, protector and warden of the forest, was born. Their steadfast Treekin followers are dedicated to Durthax's mission, to guard and nurture all living beings from those who seek to exploit them. So now with that is a little bit of the backstory and the lore to deal with Durthax. Now let's get into the high-level overview and a description of how Durthax's strategy plays into the game of Godtear. So as you maybe could tell a little bit earlier in this video from just looking at Durthax, it is a giant tree. So with that, Durthax is slow-moving but powerful. It is a highly tactical God-tier champion with the power to deny placement to its enemies and teleport objectives around the field. So take control of the earth itself. Like I had previously mentioned in the brief overview at the beginning of this video, there is a plot phase and a combat phase to each round of this game. So I'm going to go through some of Durthax's and the Treekin's actions during the plot phase, and then I'll talk about the combat phase of each of these cards as well. So let's start with Durthax. First and foremost, Durthax is a huge behemoth with 14 health. Very hard to take down, and I'll get into it a little bit later on, but there's actually ways to heal Durthax as well. So he's very, very beefy, he's a big tank, and he can heal his hit points through various means as well. The other thing to realize is that during the plot phase, Durthax has no inherent movement. So it can't just move on its own, it's got to try to move using other actions. The agility on Durthax is only 2, it's very slow moving, and the defense is only 1. So Durthax, when it takes a hit, it really takes a hit, but it can soak up a lot of that damage. The first action on the plot side is called Uproot, and that says place Durthax on a hex up to 2 hexes from their current hex. So that's a way to use an action just to teleport Durthax 2 hexes away from where it is currently at. So again, like we said, no inherent movement. In the top left of the card there, it is a 0, but Durthax has the uproot action to teleport essentially 2 hexes away from where Durthax is currently at. The other action here is called Canopy, and it says small followers within range gain a plus shield token. So this plus shield token here, and something to keep in mind on the text there, it does say small followers within range. It doesn't say Durthax's followers, it says all small followers. So when your teammate is next to you, or when your other champions and followers are next to Durthax, you can give all of them that plus shield token, which really helps when defending against combat. So that's really cool as well. Durthax is definitely a protector, and it's really fun to use that action to teleport 2 hexes away. So that's a lot of fun. The other thing here we got here is the Treekin card, and this is the Treekin plot phase side. And as you can see, the Treekin do have 2 inherent movement, so they're a little bit quicker than Durthax, and 4 agility with only 1 shield and only 1 health, but that 4 agility really can save their butt a lot of the time. When we recently played a couple games of Durthax with the Treekin, this really came in handy, and the Treekin could survive a lot of the hits just based on their high agility alone. So that is really cool. They do have a photosynthesis action, which is actually plus agility, so you can give the Treekin up to 5 agility, which makes them even more difficult to hit. So that's just crazy, and it's crazy fun to play. They're very, very difficult to hit, and they're not as slow moving as they may seem. 2 movement with all that agility, they're very hard to hit and very hard to take down. So that was really a lot of fun to play as well with all of that considered. Another action they have is Splinter Group, and it's got a range of 1, and it all depends on how many of these Treekin you have within the same hex, on the accuracy that you get. But if you have 1 in a hex, it's got 5 accuracy. If you've got 2 or 3 within the same hex, it goes up to 6 accuracy. But within 1 range, it's got a hit effect. So as long as you hit, you can move the target that you hit up to 1 hex away from this Treekin, and this Treekin may move 1 hex toward the target. So that's a really cool way of even targeting yourself or targeting Durthax, to have Durthax teleport to one of your Treekin and then have that Treekin follow along to try to keep them close together and tight knit, so you can give each other those boosts or those boons as you go as well. So they're a very tight-knit group. They want to stay together, they want to stay close by, and that Splinter Group really helps with that. And then they have an inherent effect. It's not an ability that you have to spend an action on, but it's just an effect that's inherent on the card that says Branch Ward, and it says enemy champions and followers can't be placed or recruited in hexes that are adjacent to any of the Treekin. So they don't allow anybody to spawn next to them either, so you can really get them in strategic locations to try to help really be kind of a pain in the butt for your opponents as far as spawning and that sort of thing. So that is really fun as well. Both of their plot sides are very easy to use, very simple, but also very fun. Because like I said, you're teleporting around the board, up to 2 hexes away from with Durthax, and they really play off of one another very well. And then the Treekin can also help move Durthax along even faster, as long as they're within range for that as well. So moving into the combat side of the cards, let's start with the combat side of Durthax here. Kind of just take a look at that up close. But Durthax is really a heavy hitter, which is awesome too. Very fun to play. The first action here on the combat side is called Rough Strike, and it says this skill gains combat equal to the amount that the hit roll exceeds the target's agility to a maximum of 8 additional combat. So it's kind of like it's got trample, it's got very, very high accuracy, and any amount of the hits that you roll with your accuracy roll that are above and beyond your opponent's evasive stat, it's kind of like trampling over your opponent, then you get additional combat dice during your combat roll. Inherently, it's got a range of 2, it's got an accuracy of 7, so you're rolling a whopping 7 dice to try to hit the opponent. So really, there is no agility that can really slow this guy down. 7 accuracy, and then any amount of that, let's say their agility was 2 and you rolled 7 hits with the 7 dice, and like you can see here, some of the sides of the dice have 2 hits on it, so it is not far-fetched to say that you'll get 7 accuracy hits with this. against a 2 agility, you're rolling 5 additional dice on top of the 1 combat die. So then you're coming right back at your opponent with 6 combat dice to try to deal damage to your opponent. So Rough Strike is a very heavy hitter. The other action here is called Growth Spurt, and that's the other action on the combat side of the card. And Growth Spurt, it's got a range of 2, an accuracy of 4, and 6 combat dice. And it says a hit effect, so as long as you can hit with this, you move the target up to 1 hex away from Durthax and remove 1 wound from Durthax. So he's pushing the opponent, or it's pushing the opponent and healing itself, and then you get to roll 6 combat dice at your opponent to try to hit them hard on that as well. So Durthax, a very heavy hitter, and healing itself, very cool. The Treekin combat side has a couple abilities as well. The first action is called Taking Root. It's got a range of 2, and it says if Durthax is within range, place them in a hex adjacent to the Treekin. Now again, on the combat side of the Treekin card, you can target Durthax to try to bring Durthax closer or adjacent to some of your Treekin. So again, you're kind of teleporting Durthax around the map. So if you spread out your Treekin a little bit farther away, you can really teleport Durthax, around the map on either side of your Treekin to really keep your opponent on their toes and not really knowing where your big heavy hitting Durthax is going to end up. So that's really cool. The other combat ability that the Treekin have here is called Fertilizer, which is really cool. I love the Fertilizer keyword. It's very thematic, and it's got a range of 1. And again, it has accuracy stats of 5, 6, and 6. So depending on how many of those Treekin units you have within the same hex, and then it's got combat rolls of 4, 4, 5. So if you have 3 Treekin all within the same hex, it's going to hit with 5 combat dice, which is the most you can get with this ability here. And Fertilizer does have a hit effect, so as long as you're hitting, you may remove 1 wound again from Durthax. So if Durthax is hitting your opponent, and if your Treekin are hitting its opponents, then Durthax is healing 1 wound off of itself for each time any of your characters are doing hit effects, which is really, really fun as well. So very, very tanky stats with Durthax, as you can see, with 14 health. Obviously not much agility, it's a big tree, what do you expect? And its shield, it can really only protect itself with 1, so it is being hit a lot, but as long as you're dealing hits, not even dealing damage, but as long as you're dealing hits with any of your followers or Durthax, you are healing Durthax as well, and then you are getting a heavy stream of combat dice to throw down to try to get some hits as well. So definitely a very, very heavy hitter, teleporting across the map, trying to stay within range of one another to give boons and bonus stats to each other, and it's just a really, really fun combo-y type of character to play that really work well off of each other. Not only does it work well off of other champions and followers, but it really plays well off of itself too, which is fun, especially if you're going to play 1v1 and you want to play a really quick game. So you and your opponent only choose 1 character to bring to the table for the night, so you can play a really quick match. Durthax is fun to play with itself as well. You don't need other complementary champions or followers to have fun with Durthax. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you only have a couple different heroes in your collection of God tier champions, then Durthax is definitely good for that if you only play with 1 or 2 champions at a time. And now to wrap things up, the final thing I wanted to mention is Durthax's ultimate card here. It does have an inherent ability that I want to talk about, and then I will go through its ultimate ability as well. But the inherent ability is something to always keep in mind, which just adds to the fun and to the strategy in comboing with this character. It's got an inherent effect that is always turned on. It's called Twisting Grove, and it says once during Durthax's activation, so during any activation, 1 time, you can choose a banner that's within 2 hexes of Durthax and place it on another empty objective hex within 2 hexes of them. So you can mess with your own flag or an opponent's flag and try to either, let's say, bring an opponent's flag closer to where you're at to try to stomp it out easier, or move your flag further away so your opponents don't have as easy access to your own flag. So once per activation, anytime you activate Durthax, you can really mess with your opponent's flags, which is a lot of fun. And then to the ultimate ability, it's called Wellspring. And Wellspring for the ultimate, it's got a range of 3, which is real good range. And what it says here is it says during the plot phase only, Durthax may use this skill as a bonus action. So you can use your plot phase to do, 2 of the actions on each of the cards, and then as a bonus action, every champion within a range of 3 may take a claim action. So a claim action is when you're placing your flag onto a Godtear. It's a free, I know it's an ultimate, so it's only a one-time use throughout the game, then you have to flip it over, but it's a free claim action for you and I guess anyone within the range of 3 hexes. But if you and your teammates can really strategically plan on being within 3 hexes of each other at the end of the plot phase, just make sure that Durthax's player is taking the last plot phase action. You can use that ultimate to where you and all of your teammates plant their flag for free, and they didn't have to waste any of their actions during their plot phases to plant their flag. So that is really fun as well. There's just so much going on with Durthax and the Treekin. There's so many fun things. It's just a bag of joy, just a bag of toys that you can pull out of the hat. A lot of fun things to do with Durthax, and I'm just really excited to get this champion to the table a lot more. This is definitely one that I would go seek out and purchase for myself because it is that much fun to play. I don't have all the champions pulled out here, but some of the other champions really help bolster or complement other champions with their followers. Durthax does that, but Durthax can also do that within its own team here as well. So that is a lot of fun. I hope that answers all of your burning questions to should you seek out Durthax and the Treekin and purchase it for yourself. For me, it's a definite buy. I really love the heck out of this character, and I can see me wanting to bring this character to the table almost every time I play the game. Durthax is just that much fun to play. So if I missed anything in this overview here, leave them in the comment section below. I am more than happy to address any questions that are left in the comments section. And also in the comments, leave below some of your favorite champions and followers to play in the game of Godtear. And if you haven't tried Godtear, leave a comment in the comment section below for that as well, because I do want this community to grow. It is such a fun game, and it's a game that isn't talked about enough. So if you are one of those who has not tried out Godtear yet, definitely give it a try. Like I said, the variability and the flexibility and the play style, the way you can build your play style and tailor it to fit exactly what you want out of the game. There's just so much customization you can do with Godtear that'll keep the game fresh and variable for years and years to come. So with that, I hope you all enjoy your day and have fun gaming.